So, just a couple of introductions to kick off. Hux, I'll let you go first.
Hi everybody, my name's Huxley Kendall. I'm a part of the solution engineering team here at Redgate, so I specialize around sort of database DevOps and automation. So a lot of the demos you're going to see today will be done by me. And yeah, any technical questions, anything that you need support on, I can definitely be someone to help.
Perfect, thanks Hux. And my name's Dave. I'm one of the sales team managers. I also used to be on the solutions engineering team at Redgate as well. And I'll be taking you through some of the more sort of contextual parts of today's session. As we go through, any questions, anything you want to add in, do feel free to interrupt as we go. We've got more than enough time to cover off what we want to today. But to start off with, we just always, I always like to tend to come back to this quote. So this is a Donovan Brown quote, and there's a real specific reason I like this, about DevOps being a fusion of people, processes, and products. And I think very much it comes in that order. It has to stem with the people aspect first, everyone being bought in, everyone having that sort of cultural change to be able to work towards DevOps. Then comes the change in processes, and the final step really is the product part, which I probably shouldn't say being from a product vendor, but it is the last stage that we tend to come to, and that's there for a reason, because you need those other two things there. And product can unlock a lot of buy-in from people, it can unlock a lot of process, but ultimately, that's really where we start to see that driving change. People embracing the desire to move to better working practices and unblock some of those challenges that they have. And at Redgate, we've been doing this for 25 years now. We really do advocate for what we position as end-to-end database DevOps, something that can encompass all the different aspects that you're going to face and all those different challenges, because you can tackle challenges in isolation. But as time evolves, you often want to expand that process out into something that is even more powerful and able to really bring a unified selection in. And we work with a huge range of organizations, like I'm sure you're familiar with a lot of the logos on there. But that should just be sort of really nothing more than just a testament to the fact that, you know, these product processes do work. You know, companies of this massive size are able to adopt and implement these, and that's because they're actually seeing value from solving some of these key challenges. And when we look at end-to-end database DevOps, we like to break it down over a couple of key areas. So when we're looking at it, everything can be positioned as a single point, but ultimately it's a continuous journey. Any of these can be your starting point. Any of these can be something that you choose to adopt and expand into other areas. We've got database provisioning that can include anonymization, cataloging of sensitive data. We also really focus towards that area around development work, getting code into version control, creating more visibility, and then you're into release management. But ultimately, you also need to know what's going on in your database, and that's when the monitoring side comes in. And to illustrate this sort of massive push that we're seeing, these are some of the stats from the State of Database Landscape report that we carried out at the very tail end of 2023. And this shows that 73% of respondents have either implemented or intend in the next 2 years to bring DevOps in for the database. And obviously, DevOps can expand beyond the database, but it is a particularly challenging area, as I'm sure you're all aware. This is something that, you know, comes with its own set of challenges and risks. So seeing this big drive towards really planning to bring this in or already bringing this in on some or all projects really does show that a lot of people are seeing the value in this. But one of the key things, or three of the key things actually, that came out of the report this year was that landscape is also changing alongside the need to kind of embrace DevOps and be able to really face some new challenges. The first of which is the number of database platforms. Now, Redgate, throughout its history, we've typically been SQL Server focused. For the last 10 years, we've done things with Oracle. But over the last couple of years, really since we brought in Flyway, we've tried to go much more cross database, and that's because that's what's happening with the world of database users. Looking at this, 79% of our respondents flagged up that they are using 2 or more database platforms within their infrastructure. It's no longer the standard case that people just pick a platform and every single project and every use case is the best fit for that platform. So this is really, again, something that comes back to that standardization side. Last thing you want to do is put best practice in and then say, great, this is marvelous, but it only works for SQL Server, or it only works for Oracle. You want to be able to scale this out, allow people to share that knowledge across the business. The other thing, regardless of database platform, is exactly where you're enabling those environments. So typically, obviously, we started in an on-prem world, and there are people that have fully embraced the cloud. But the vast majority of people we engage with have sort of settled to that hybrid model, looking at that mix of on-prem and cloud infrastructure, picking the right resource for the right project, whether that's to do with cost or privacy, manageability, function, whatever that is. It's not a one-size-fits-all type technology. So aligning that between the goals and the infrastructure is really important. And the last one that came out that was also a new area for us, as it is for many, is the use of AI for the database. And when we look at this here, we can see that there's a fairly substantial market already. 20% of respondents already have used AI in the form of database management. And given that, yes, AI has been around for a long time, but it is seeing this huge surge, I was quite surprised to see that it's already such a high number. Another 35% are planning to. And that will only grow likely over time as solutions develop. I'm sure walking around the different sessions, the different booths, that you've already heard the word AI mentioned about 8 million times in the last couple of days. And that's only going to continue. So it's definitely something that we'll touch on a little bit today, as I'm sure no vendor presentation would be complete without AI. But it is something that you'll see. And when it comes down to the DevOps side, it's why bother putting in the effort? What are you trying to achieve? What are you trying to unlock? And the top respondents that we saw for there really does come down to speed of the database change and delivery. Actually being able to release faster, release more often, be able to achieve all the things that typically the business is pushing for. They want value going out to users or customers quicker. But also really basic things that we take for granted to a certain extent. Minimizing the application downtime. How can we improve around there? This is one that I love talking about because I do a lot of work with customers on looking really where they're getting sort of return on investment. But it's not really the return on investment that's the bit that counts. It's what you are then going to do with that time. So what projects are you not currently getting to that you want to actually get to? If you free up time from your day-to-day task, what does your backlog then look like? And that's a massive driving factor here. We have others in way of increasing protection, audit requirements, protecting data loss, but they're really often three of the key ones that we come up against with over a third of our respondents indicating those. And as I said, obviously we do come from Redgate, and what we're going to look at today is positioning those areas, so test data management, standardization and automation, and monitoring. And from there, that's really how we're going to look at the entire landscape of database DevOps and complete that sort of flow at the top. We can start at any point, we can finish at any point, because ultimately, it is a continuing circle of work. And the first area we want to touch on is test data manager. And test data management, in general, is a tricky area. It can be very, very time-consuming. It can be very, very labor-intensive. And one of the things that people actually then embrace this for, obviously taking on such a big task, is because it has the potential to have a huge implication to your processes and your workflows. When we went out before doing this, as we've had other solutions that fall in this area, but we wanted to evolve them, the key areas that were coming out were people's reduced efficiency on looking at their data processes, releases with low quality data, ultimately derailing the process, and then just not being able to scale this out. When you often look at something to do with test data management, as soon as you start bringing in categorization or anonymization, it can be incredibly labor intensive. This can be hours of work to stand up a new database into the mix. So what we've tried to do at Redgate is take a little bit of that burden away. Stand up a solution that gives you the ability to unlock this at a click of a few buttons. And what this gets you is simplifying, as it says there, simplifying the hard stuff, making it automated, being able to take a huge environment, terabytes, petabytes of data, and reduce that to a fraction of the size in seconds. being able to put this into a regular, repeatable process and do this using synthetic data that removes that risk. And on that, we're going to get to a slightly more exciting bit than listening to me talk. We're going to actually see some of this with Huxley.
Sweet. So Dave got the slides, and I got the live demo, so be very nice to me. So Dave made a lot of promises there, and we want to be able to see that this is going to be an easy process. I don't want to have this data virtualization tool if it's going to be a real big pain. When we're talking about refreshing environments, I want my developers to be able to move quick, I want them to be able to save me space, and I want this to be compliant and repeatable. So there's a couple of things that come into that. I want to know if I'm refreshing from production, first of all, am I taking data and am I being compliant? If I have PII in there, am I letting random developers just pull from production and keep that in an unsecure environment? Or is there a process in place where actually it is going to mask my data? And I can go in even deeper and I can start classifying and choosing how I mask that data. I want to know, like we said, if I have 4, 5 terabytes in production, when I start provisioning an environment per developer, am I massively scaling out my costs, or can I keep those super, super lightweight? And more importantly, am I giving my developers the freedom that if they do want to break an environment, if they do want to do some heavier changes, that in the worst case scenario it does break, they can instantly provision a brand new one. So before I show you, and I've only got a couple of minutes to do this per one, before I show you the in-depth of the masking and all that, I want to show you just how easy it is for a developer. Let's say I'm working on Past Data Summit, and I break my environment. Or I'm a new developer, and I need a new sandbox environment. Whatever that need is, if I need UAT, QA, whatever, the process is this. I come to TDM. This sits on your internal infrastructure. There is no passing of schema or data from us to Redgate, from you to Redgate, whatever it is. This is yours. Any developer can access this. And if I want a clone, I click Create Clone, and I'll say it's Huxley's, it's dev, and it's masked. That's it. I already have an image available, so that will create a containerized version of production masked based upon what I set. So it is going to be readily available to me if I have something like Azure Data Studio, SSMS, whatever it might be. If I'm on Oracle, MySQL, Postgres, instantly, in around 30 seconds, depending on the SQL bits Wi-Fi, it will instantly provision that environment for me. Readily available, and I can do whatever I need to do. Done. So if I have a connection string there, I can come in and I can open up something like Azure Data Studio. And this is the fun bits of a live demo. Let's see if I can get through the VPN, but if I can, I'll show you connecting into it. And the really important part of this is, let's say it's not just one database. Let's say you're a very complex user. Maybe you've got multiple databases in there, linked via synonyms. And if I want to give my developers one part of dev, I need to give them multiple developer environments. I can click in, I can pass it my connection string, and fingers crossed the VPN is going to let me in. I can click connect. Instantly there. Every database that I put inside of that provision is there. Past Data Summit, that data is masked for me. If I want to have multiple data inside there, I can. And the important part is, Past Data Summit in production is 5 terabytes. The cost of this per developer, 100 megs at max. I can create new ones, I can get rid of them, I can do whatever I want to do. I don't have to worry about my developer environment because I know it's compliant, I know I can make an instant new one. If we look at the process for then making these images, well, it's even easier. I say, hey, I want a new image. And you have a couple options. In the GUI, I have a couple options. In the CLI, I have even more. In the GUI, I can say, I have some nuclear detailed secrets in there, so replace all my data. Give me new synthetic data anywhere that you see data. I can say to the GUI, actually, there's only a few tables and columns in there, which is PII. The rest is applicational, and I want to keep that how it is. And can you find my PII for me and mask it for me? The second part is subsetting. Your developers might say, well, I'm only working on these 2 tables, so if I want to instantly provision a database, I don't want millions and millions of rows of data in tables that I'm never going to use. So let the developer choose. Maybe instead of having 10 terabytes of the data, he only wants 100 megabytes. And he wants to keep the distribution. He wants to keep the links between the data, but he only needs 1,000 rows. Maybe he wants to give a where clause and say, actually, I would like to have tables inside this remit, or I want data that is represented by these companies. They can dictate what they want. So I might say, I want a small subset. Again, we currently support SQL Server, Postgres, MySQL, Oracle. So if I'm on SQL Server, I can let it know what version of the database I want. And then all I have to do is pass it that image source. If I want, I can have a reference data to see what it's going to do. Luckily, you'll know I'm not allowed to make images, so you can let your developer say, hey, actually, I want to make the images, you can't. But if we come back here, we can see some of these images here, and I get a really nice breakdown. Let's find a little bit more of an interesting one, like Past Data Summit, and it's telling me how it has found data. It's found columns like customer first name, and it's going to replace it with given names. It's found things like masked family names for my last names. So everything that could be PII is compliant, and I know my developers can instantly come in and provision a new one. We give you, as well as that, lots of different CLIs. Question on screen?
No, my screen.
Oh, sorry, mate. I'm going to keep going.
Is there an option to provide custom scripts for masking?
Absolutely. So the question there was, can I provide additional masking scripts? And what I'm going to show you here, I have a nice little TDM. For most of you, what you're going to want to do is integrate this into some kind of CI/CD. Let me have more control. Let me have morning 8 a.m. routines that go every day and provision 100 databases for my developers. They provision UAT, QA. And then as well as that, if you want to be more in-depth, I have all my individual scripts. So for something like an anonymizer, I have a really nice little JSON file here, which lets me dictate how it should be anonymizing. If you have very sensitive data and you're not wanting to trust the GUI entirely, you can let the GUI do the bulk of the work, and you can come in and you can alter these JSONs so you dictate how it masks. Same again, we deliver a CLI for them to generate their own data on the spot, and we give them a CLI so that they can proxy and manipulate these clones. I'm going to stop talking and pass back to Dave.
Good.
If you're interested in what you see, come find us. Sweet. Let me put up the PowerPoint. I can do this quick. Look at that.
Seamless. Thanks, Alex. So, obviously, that is the first step, potentially, in this workflow. We've now taken our environments. We've looked at production. We've said we want to make bite-sized copy. We want to protect sensitive information. But now we actually want to do something with it. And many of you may be familiar with something that's been around for Redgate for a number of years, SQL Prompt. It's literally probably our most popular solution. You can speak to people who have every Redgate solution under the sun, and you say, what do you like? And they say SQL Prompt. Because everyone uses it, it becomes part of the workflow. It helps you write code faster. It helps you be more efficient. It helps catch errors. It helps bring standardization. And all of these are great, but as I said at the start, no presentation today is going to be complete without the mention of AI, and this is no exception. So what we have done is brought AI into SQL Prompt. And the idea here is that not only do you still get all the value that you get from SQL Prompt, but you get the ability to be able to leverage even more than just what we program in there. So we can use Prompt Plus to query. So you can write a perfectly standard statement, and that will build a query that is then going to enable that for you. We can use it to optimize existing code. We can make those processes work even better. We can have something flagged up in, say, SQL Monitor as a long-running query. We then want to come in and optimize that query. We're going to jump into Prompt Plus. You're still in charge of it, but it can then suggest that framework for you as to exactly what you want to achieve there. Or we can create entirely new structures to our database. We can create stored procedures. We can create tables. We can say, work with this existing data set and give us something brand new. And all of this is something that is currently in an early access program. So if you've got existing SQL Prompt licensing, you can be part of this. You can come in, you can sign up. The team will then reach out and give you access into here, because AI as a mass market solution is still somewhat of a new concept. We want to be sure that what we're doing is delivering the value that you need. So it's not just a case of, here's a load of great features. It's try this out. Tell us what works for you, what doesn't work for you. What would you like to see improved? Are there areas that we're not even thinking of that are going to massively impact your day-to-day workflow? And on that, we can show you what it looks like in real life. And this is the bit that Huxley's nervous about because
Right,
it's brand new.
the only thing scarier than a live demo is a live demo of an EAP project. So again, please don't be mean. Can everyone see that? Can everyone see that?
Yeah.
I'm getting even better at this. Look at me go. Sweet. So has everyone seen prompt? Everyone know? I will quickly show you prompt before I show you, because this is the tool if you work on SQL Server. Everyone comes up to us how much they love us. SQL prompt is a really, really strong tool. If you know SSMS, you'll know SSMS is not great. It's pretty slow. The tools that are in there aren't that useful. Things like delete database, things like split table, drop table, rename table, they're not the most useful in the world. So what we do with SSMS is we've given you the tools. If you work on any other ID, any other language, you get this by default. But for SQL Server, you don't. So as I start typing, go away. As I start typing, it's able to recognize what I'm talking about. It's able to prompt me for better things. So if I put a FR, it knows it's going to be a from. It knows what's going to come after a from, well, it's going to be an object. So if I hit space, it's then going to present to me all the different objects that I can use around this. So, yep.
Is the SQL prompt can be useful to query DMVs?
DMVs.
Data management views.
Oh, yeah, it absolutely can, yep. So this is the strong bit with prompt. Anything that it has inside SSMS, it absolutely can. It's the same thing with the AI. So if you haven't seen prompt already, check it out. But the really, really strong reason that this AI tool is so powerful is, and I'm not going to say it's the only, because I don't know for a fact, but it's the only tool I've seen on the market that is inside SSMS. It's the only one that gets that relational view of my objects. You can ask ChatGPT by itself how you do something, but it has no relevance of what's actually inside your databases. So if I'm targeting my New World DB dev, and this is always very scary, I can say to it, hey, show me prompt plus. And I get two options. I get speed and I get quality. Essentially saying, do you want to use ChatGPT 3.5 or do you want to use 4? And I can get it to do absolutely anything. I can say to it, show me all customer tables and objects. And I can ask it. And it will write it for me. It will say select table, it will pull it from the schema, and it will present to me those different views. I can go even depth. I can get it to then say, actually, that's not what I was looking for. Can you give me a little bit more? I could even go as far as saying, an example I always like to do, and the one I'm going to do for you today is, well, maybe I want an entire new schema. Maybe I want new databases. Maybe I want new views, new tables. I can say to it, create me a schema so I can track my conference, if I can spell, sessions, attendees, and reviews of the sessions. We can answer that question, and we can cross our fingers, and we can see. So it's not just going to spit out generic code like ChatGPT is going to give to you. It's looking at my schema. It's able to look at what I already have, and we can see here. It's creating my tables for session views. I can scroll up. It's creating it for attendees, conference sessions. It's actually creating the schema. If I don't like what it's doing, I can say, actually, can you go back there, and can you name it SQL bits? I can say, actually, Dave's doing a really good session. Can you make sure that maybe Dave has his own table so Dave can track all his sessions? All of these different questions, this is the only tool I've seen that I can reliably use AI and have it manipulate anything inside of my database. As we mentioned, this is an EAP project, so feel free to sign up, come speak to us, and we can pester the different PMs that are monitoring this. But this is definitely something in terms of AI. We don't want to do it everywhere and anywhere. We want to find the perfect place to do AI, and for us, it's been SQL prompt. So I've been able to ask it all these different questions. If you're interested in something like this, come and find us, and you can have a go, and you can ask it a million random questions, and we can see how strong it is. It's only evolving through time. So I think we'll pass back, and we'll do carry on. Sweet.
Switch me up.
Da-da-da-da-dee.
So I'm not going to be completely mean to Huxley and suggest that he now needs to continue his workflow all the way through. But in theory, now we've used prompt plus, maybe by hand, to make those changes. We then get to probably arguably one of the most complex areas, certainly when you're trying to implement, which is looking at deployments and specifically looking over moving to automation. Now, I'm a big fan of that change doesn't have to start at automation. You can evolve process into manual deployment still, and then you can eventually reach a state of automation. But often for a lot of people we speak to, it is a goal. It's labor saving, it's repeatable, it removes a lot of risk. It's something that you typically do find as a lot of end states for database development. And we have 3 areas that we really want to touch on when we're approaching this. How are we going to tackle the challenge of version control? How are we going to achieve continuous integration? And how are we going to make this entire process, as well as the deployments, to be fair, fully repeatable? And that comes over a number of moving parts that are in this. So when we look at this, we've got potentially shared or dedicated. Personally, it can come down to the constraints of the infrastructure that you've got and what's right for the system, but often when we're elaborating some of those future processes, dedicated is a great thing to do. But then we're coming into getting them into version control. But then that's when the process takes over and really goes into automation. But we can also bring automation into those early parts as well. And when we do this, there's things to consider, like which platform are we using? Again, what we're going to show you today works across those big 4, but it also works across a number of other platforms when we're talking about the pipeline side. We also have to consider what we're using for version control. So in this case, we're going to use Git, but then which flavor are we using? Where are we hosting that? From there, the tool that we're going to look at today, Flyway, that's going to power the process ultimately. But then how are we going to manage that release side? Is it going to be Jenkins, Azure DevOps, Octopus Deploy? And all of these, once we have this sort of roadmap, we then have to figure out how we're going to structure and tie all of this together. And what we're looking for is a few key outputs at this point, because it's great feeding stuff in, getting it coming through, but we need to know exactly what we're seeing. So we've already talked about repeatable, we've already talked about continuous integration, but we want to see object level history. We want to know that not only are we going to be in charge with the migration scripts of how something's going to change, but we want to see what change that impact has had, how that object has changed over time, as well as how it's being performed. We want to be able to look at drift detection. No point deploying to a test environment that looks nothing like production. But how do you know that's the case in advance? Who have you got actually, without sitting there and cross-referencing it? You need something that's going to flag that up. Who, with the best of intentions, has created a quick object in test that you don't know is there? But then looking at things like auditing. Great to have all of this, but how can you prove it? When someone says what has actually happened, what does that look like? And this is something that we often like to position to people. When you're looking at this, and have a think yourselves, what stage are you at and where do you want to end up? Typically, a lot of people I engage with are steps 1 and 2. I've even had a couple of people volunteer step 0, which I hate to think what it looks like. But we're in there making changes, but it's manually intensive. There's a lot of labor involved in this. It's something that is taking a lot of time away from the team. And the further you get up, the more reliable that gets, the more repeatable that gets, the less effort and labor is involved. And now Huxley's going to show you what that can look like with Flyway.
Sweet. These demos are getting harder and harder, but yeah, that's all right.
You like a challenge?
Oh, spoil it. Sweet. So, like Dave said, this is definitely the tool that I absolutely work the most with. And Dave really touched upon it. This is a tough tool. If you're interested in what you see, I'm doing another speaking session around just this tool. But this is really, really hard. There's so many different things that we need to consider. I need to consider, where is my source of development? Where am I trying to deploy to? How am I trying to deploy? Am I trying to do some kind of branching strategy? Am I working through Jira tickets? What DBMS am I on? And one thing you're going to notice with this tool is it's not just a tool. It's not like a gut and replace solution. This is a framework tool that we want to deliver to you. How do you want us to generate scripts? How do you want us to source control? How do you want us to deploy? We can sit down with you, and we can help you build what works for you. So if you've already got integration with SIS, you're already doing SRS, you're provisioning environments, you're using Power BI, Flyway wants to come in, and it wants to sit underneath all your current processes and make that easier, make it stronger, but we certainly don't want to take away any of the things that you really, really like. And one thing you're going to notice with this tool is everything we've seen beforehand, the TDM and the standardizing, they fit directly into this. So regardless if your developers are working on clones, they integrate directly with this tool. If you're using standardization tools like Prompt Plus to generate the changes, they're going to get picked up by Flyway. And the way I describe this tool is, it is the start-stop tool. The second I make my change, can I get it to production, however I feel comfortable, however I want to, but I'm going to take away all your overhead. And I guarantee you, if you're on SQL Server, Oracle, Postgres, MySQL, I can make your life easier. I can make your devs' life easier. I can make their version controlling system easier. I can make your DBA's life easier. And if you don't believe me, come find me and I will show you how I would do that. But the way I always do this is I'm going to work on and I've got around about 10 minutes for this one actually, which is quite nice.
Yeah, not quite.
So I'll go a bit quicker then. So I'm going to work on my New World DB set of databases. I've got multiple here. It doesn't matter where production is. I don't care. It doesn't matter how many sources of development you've got. I don't care if you're developers. Some of them want to share a database. So if you two here want to work on a shared database, and I want to work on a dev database that's on my own, and some of you want to do a code-first approach, don't care. I've got my own dev. Let's say it's a clone that TDM's given me. So all I'm going to do is, I'm going to make changes. For SQL Server, there isn't a change that you can make that I can't get Fly to pick up. You have cross-database synonyms, it will pick up those dependencies. You want to do your static data, it will do that for you as well. For me, I'm going to make 3 types of changes. I'm going to edit an object, which I know has dependencies layered on top of it, and I don't want my developers to have to spend their time also including those dependencies. So let's say we want to track a Twitter ID. I'm not calling it X, despite what anyone asked me to. I'm going to make a new table. We're going to say it's going to be attendees. We'll also call it speakers. And we'll call it sessions. We'll call it SQL bits. I'm also going to edit some data. I'm going to add in a new region. We're going to make up an entirely new central region. I've made my changes. How I make my changes, where I make my changes, does not matter. I don't want developers manually version controlling. I don't want developers manually writing scripts. And the important part is, if you guys are on a different database to me, I want to make sure that I can version control and I can deliver it to you guys in the easiest way possible. So, regardless of my IDE, regardless of my SSMS, don't want that, don't want that, don't want that, or that. There we go. All I have to do as a developer is just load up Flyway. If you see, I was working on New World DB, and if we are on separate developments, maybe you're on a code first, maybe you're on a shared database, it remembers where my personal development database is. So I click into New World DB, it loads up my project settings, VM internet dependent, and it instantly knows where my development source is. It will instantly pull down from version control and get the latest version of my schema model, and all it's doing is looking for changes that I have made against that version controlled schema. So I instantly get a version controlling tool which spots all of my changes. It says to me, yeah, I've looked at your dev database, I've never seen that change before. It says to me, I have seen some of this data, but I've never seen that central region. It says to me, I have seen this object, but when I looked, there's an additional Twitter ID column right there. And if I've got developers all over, different development sources, I want to, 1, easily version control if I want to deploy, and 2, make sure everyone here can join this project and get that change. I select my objects, I click Save the project. If I'm a developer, I'm done. No more tasks, no more manual writing scripts, no more dependencies, anything else. I get paid to develop. I want them to go back and develop. I don't want them doing anything more than that. Let's say, below gentleman at the front, sorry to pick on you so many times, let's say you made a change and you pushed it up to version control. It comes up through the schema model, and let's say we can edit our products. Let's say you added in a new column here. Ooh, that's not right. There we go. We'll call it, God knows, SQL bits again. A bit boring, but there you go. That change is not in my development database, is it? So I need an easy tool to also get other developers' changes. I hit refresh. Again, it's not just looking for changes that I have made against source control. It's looking for changes that source control has made that I don't yet have. It says to me, hey, by the way, someone else made a change that you don't yet have. I can overwrite my source of development, or more usefully, I can backwards update my database. So easy version controlling, no more manually doing anything. This is going to do it entirely for me. And the important part is, if I have, let's say, 100 developers and they all make 100 changes each, God forbid I want to start manually writing scripts for that. I want to be quick, I want to be agile, I want to have standardized scripts. So one person for all 100 developers can pull down the latest schema model. If you want to have a branching strategy, we integrate directly with Git so you can isolate your changes. But the important thing is, I can click Generate Migrations, and what I'm going to be presented with is all of the changes that all of my developers have made, regardless of where they made it, how they made it, what they did, that have not yet got a script that perfectly recreates it. So show me what I can recreate in production with all my scripts, and show me the schema model of my development. Show me all of those changes that I haven't yet been able to forward deploy. Good, because I was running out of talking points there. So it shows to me not just my changes, but the changes that you made as well. And I can see here, for one person, yes, in production, I can create the customers table, but I do not have that Twitter ID column. It says to me again, yes, I can create products, but I don't have that SQL bits column. I can choose what goes into the next version. Maybe I don't want to bring SQL bits. I don't like your change. Sorry, not a big fan, so I'm going to leave it behind. But I'm going to keep my changes. I can pick and choose. I'm going to do DDL, and I'm going to do DML. I say to it, generate me scripts. If you know anything about us, we have SQL compare. If you know SSDT, you'll know that SSDT uses SQL compare, but we made and we gave to them from 10 years ago. This is the industry-leading tool at generating scripts, and it is nestled directly into this tool. So it is going to do a few things for me. It is going to scan my database, and it's going to look for any dependencies that have not been updated, so I don't have any invalid objects. It then writes for me an industry-standard forward script, which has been versioned to follow on from the last one that we created. Anytime it makes you a version script, you also get a really nice corresponding rollback script. Even if you do a fixed forward approach, it's nice to know that they're there just in case you want them. If I like what I see, I can edit the scripts if I need to, but I hit save, and that instantly gets orchestrated against all my different databases. And if you're a DBA, you're going to be really, really happy about this next feature because your life is the easiest. I have all the scripts here that I could need. And instead of having that really painful Excel sheet, and I'm tracking every single database and every single script that's gone to each different scripts, and if test goes ahead of QA, then how the hell am I going to deploy in one pipeline? Well, with Flyway, regardless of how many databases you've got, every single database is being tracked. Has that script gone? When did that script go? What did it look like? So I can see here, all of my scripts are successfully deployed, apart from that last script at the bottom. So I have a collection of commands I can run. Some of them will deploy all pending scripts. Some will roll me back. If I want to roll back my database, I'm not a DBA. I don't know how to roll back a database. But with Flyway, I just dictate. A DBA has the easiest job in the world because they dictate what they want. Flyway will do it for me. I want to target and go all the way back to version 10. I can do that for 1,000 databases in one click with one pipeline. So what's more likely to have happen is a migrate. You want to customize that. You want to integrate it on CI/CD. You want to have cherry picks. You want to have rollbacks. You want to have anything you want. You want to generate check reports. You want to see drift. What's going to happen to my databases? We have all of these commands nestled in here. I can customize it with an additional 80 or so parameters and cherry pick or do whatever I want to do. But the likely thing you're going to see is some kind of CI/CD deployment. I'm not going to run the pipeline, so I might give Dave an aneurysm. But we will see all the different types of pipelines that we can help you build. So if you like what you see, you want to see more, you want to see those check reports, you want to see the drift checks, you want to see the Delta scripts that we can generate, come find us at the booth, and I'm going to give Dave...
And then Huxley can do his full presentation that I won't let him do today because it takes... Yeah.
Can migration script be generated inside a transaction where it is possible?
Yes, absolutely. So you can dictate if you want it transactional, you want to batch it with other transactions, but yes, absolutely you can. There you go. Sorry.
So, last part of today, now that we've reined Huxley's demo desire in, is monitoring. And this is massively about understanding not only what is going on, but how what is going on can be made better. Can it be got ahead of? Is it going to be something that's going to impact you without you realizing it? Do you want to be blindsided on a Friday afternoon and realize that the whole thing is about to burst into flames around your ears? The answer is normally no. So SQL Monitor, it's about looking at getting away from any downtime. It's about scaling and keeping up with the estate as it evolves. And we do this by looking at diagnosis. We do this by analyzing performance, using alerting systems to get ahead of this, and giving you that single pane of glass. And this is another thing that we've evolved over time to really reflect all the different environments that you're working in. So we've always had SQL Server. We've gone into the cloud side. We can do clusters and availability groups. We can deal with virtual machines. We can deal with cloud platforms. But as well as that, we can now do Postgres. And then later this year, we're looking at bringing in MySQL, Oracle, Mongo, all of these ones, so that not only have you got a solution, but you've got a solution that encompasses everything in one single place. And we're going to give you a very quick, because we're running out of time, overview of SQL Monitor.
This will be the quickest demo you've ever seen, I promise. Sweet. So before I show that page, I'm going to make one promise to you. And if you have servers that are in production and nestled somewhere completely random, you've got US, you've got Europe, you've got Postgres on-prem, I'm going to give you a single pane of glass so you can see instantly anything going wrong, and I can see every single one of my servers. So we go to the global dashboard. This is everything. This is my entire estate, all of my databases, all of my servers, regardless of where they are. If production can't talk to test, does not matter. We can still monitor them both on one single page. And the point of this tool is, if I am a CEO, CFO, CTO, DBA, dev, I can use this to find out the information that I am looking for. Instantly, I'm presented to production, Azure database. I can group these different databases for how I work myself. If I refresh this page, it remembers what I was looking at. If the CEO comes on, it remembers what he was looking at. I can tag different stuff. So if I am only interested in the simulated databases, or I'm only interested in internal databases, I can choose my view. Maybe I'm someone who is meant to be very reactive to issues. Someone points out an issue to me, and I need to be instant to that. I might want to sort by health status. So show me everything going on that is the worst health. We have things like custom alerts. So I can see here for the last, let's say, hour, what's actually going on. I can see that there's some long-running queries. I can see that jobs are failing. And the whole point of this tool is, and it's not to stop you being reactive. There's nothing wrong with being reactive. That's the way you're going to have to be. But can I be reactive in the best way possible and then turn that into proactiveness to then further evolve my estate? So let's say, and let's go on, let's say staging. Someone's pointed out an issue to me on staging 01. What I can do, I can click in, and I'm going to see instantly all of the metrics that might be important to me 30 seconds or onwards. If I want to see what is happening at this very second, I can click on current activity and see all the jobs that are currently going on at this very second. We also have things like indexes. Can we help you evolve your indexes? Are you having indexes that aren't being used? Are you constantly referencing data that should be indexed? And what I can do is I can be super reactive, but as quickly as possible. I can ping it up with Flyway and see when I did deployments, but if I know I had an issue at 8 o'clock, this is the magic part of Flyway, I let go, and everything on this page is a snapshot of just the timescale that I'm looking at. So if I'm interested in CPU, if I'm interested in memory, that's what I'm going to see. I can do that against a baseline, so I can see, well, actually, I can see really high throughput here, but is that throughput normally that high? Let's find out. I target throughput, I ask for a baseline, and what it's going to do is it's going to find another point in history exactly like this, and it's going to compare that against that. So actually, I see I normally do get a spike, but a little bit later on, so probably not an issue. And what I can do with SQL Monitor is I scroll down, I'm getting more and more information. Can I help you with your queries? These are the queries in this very specific time period that we're running. Do you want to see the estimated plan for that query and how it runs and where we think the cost comes from? Can I show you that query the last 100 times it ran? Is it running more expensively now than it used to? I can track that query. If I find ones with issues, SQL Monitor is even going to suggest to me ways I can improve upon that query. And what I do when I scroll is I'm finding out more and more information. I could do a 2-hour demo for you, and I won't get to all the metrics that I can show you on SQL Monitor. But as I scroll down, I'm getting deeper and deeper. Latches and locks, I'm going to see permissions, things like host machine metrics. If it's on a VMware, show me the VM metrics, disk usage, temp DB. Anything as a DBA that you might need to react to an issue is being presented to you here in the easiest way that you can see it. So as a DBA, I instantly know what's happening. And I can do a lot more with SQL Monitor. I can create custom alerts, and these custom alerts are for custom metrics. There are metrics that we don't track that you want to track, but they're all customized based upon what I'm looking at. If I look at a deadlock, it's not just going to present to me a generic screen. It's going to present to me a screen based around deadlocks. What happened? What were the events? What was the object being blocked? And why was it being blocked? We have things like reports, which allow me to build out custom dashboards. If I'm only interested in Azure, then let me build an Azure dashboard based upon graphs I have created that are interested to me. So, Roy, because I found your name now, if you're interested in something else, maybe you're interested in SSC metrics, you have your own dashboard, and your dashboard's not very interesting. But we can say yours was the example of a service summary report. Maybe you're really interested in the service and the alerts. It's your dashboard. It's for you. You can export that. You could even have that emailed out to you every morning to show you what you missed when you weren't working. Finally, we have estate planning, backups, disk usage, SQL agent jobs, why were they failing, helping you plan out your estate. Again, if you're interested in this, come and find me and I will give you a full in-depth demo of SQL Monitor. But it is the one tool you need to monitor your entire estate, regardless of DBMS, regardless of where it is. Dave, have your 3 minutes back.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Kind. So, just to sort of wrap up where we are. What we've tried to do is give you a bit of an insight into what we see people typically trying to drive for, but also looking at how we can unlock that. And there's a lot more to come this year. So, for example, SQL Monitor. It's going to have even more database platforms supported in there. There's going to be even more reporting, even more scenarios accounted for with automated workflows. For Flyway, we now support 50 plus database platforms across the entire solution, but we're still adding more of those there as well. We're also looking at bringing in even more controls over selected migrations. Do you want to only have certain migrations that execute against certain environments? Is there a certain batch of customers that you want to receive a particular update? And finally, on test data management, as I said, this was brand new. This was launched at Pass Summit last year. But we're doing even more with the synthetic data generation. We're going to be bringing even more platforms in there and just improving even more capability around things like subsetting and anonymization. And as Huxley said, for next steps wise, come see us at the booth. If there's something that you're really keen to explore, you've got other questions, we'll obviously be around after this, but as well, come find us down there. We'll happily run you through anything. There is a huge raft of resources online from Redgate. Not all solutions-based, some of them are just general best practice. We've got a number of people who contribute to our blogs. Check those out. There's videos, there's content. There's the ability to have professional services to help you get this set up. We can help you with premium support. But the one thing we did want to flag up, if you're interested, go online. April the 17th, there is a mini one-day summit that we are running. There is numerous talk tracks going on. I promise you they are not Redgate things. I promise you Huxley will probably get to do a longer demo than I've let him today. But come, have a look. There is ones on new and emerging technologies, on thought leadership. It's at the Barbican in London. It's a great day, but if you can't make it there, we also have a huge other range of events. So thank you very much. If you have any questions, do feel free to either ask now in the 30 seconds that we probably have remaining, or time as it now is. Give us a second after here, grab us if you want, or come find us at the booth. Thanks very much.
Thanks, guys.